two kinds of people I never want to fight in this world. One is Bob Backlund, and the others are nuns.
Hey, this is Party Like a Rockstar podcast, and I'm your host, Joel. Today's episode is brought to you by Misha's Kind Foods. They're an LA-based small business making the world's finest non-dairy cheese on the market today. They're lactose-free, paleo, keto, kosher, Parev, and 100% vegan. If you like what you see, check out the next video. If you like this video, please subscribe and like by clicking the little round button on the bottom right. To learn more about me or our other guests on the show, go to joelrody.com. You can follow us on Twitter, Instagram, or TikTok. The handle is Joel Rody. If you haven't already read my book, Memoir of a Roadie, it's now available through Amazon and paperback Kindle or as an audiobook. I hope you enjoy the show.
It's horrible because we'll be playing golf and he'll be playing like shit. And then once money becomes involved, it's a total freaking turnaround. I'm like, what the hell? You just suckered me. And in my backswing, he's like talking and I'm freaking hitting the thing to the right. Sideways.
He hit a ball at a 90-degree angle. I've never seen it happen in my life.
It bounced off the golf cart.
It was unbelievable. He was supposed to be, you're supposed to be hitting to your left, and somehow he was able to hit it straight in front of himself and to hit a golf. I'm like, you should get money for that because that's the most amazing thing in the world.
That's when I chased you Rex down with the flag from the hole, and I threw it at you guys like a freaking spear. When I got my 4-iron stuck in a freaking tree.
And then we had to get it down with another golf club.
Yeah.
Yep. If you're playing golf and the golf clubs are used to hit the ball only, you're not really playing golf, in my opinion. I've tried it once in my life, and I was ejected from the course, but I had a lovely time.
Where was that at?
That was Pine Ridge in North Oxford, Massachusetts, with my uncles. They had this whole the Chamber of Commerce or something. We're playing golf and everything. And I mean, of course, it didn't help that my uncle was on the phone yelling at someone for not delivering lumber and like smashed his phone on the course. And then so
it sounds like Mike.
Oh my God, I would freak
they started kind of enjoying more beverages.
Yes.
Yeah, and there were like monitors, and I didn't know this, but like there were like stooges that were on every hole, like watching everyone play and reporting.
Oh my God.
So we started to kind of drink a little more, and
I'd be out of there in freaking 5 minutes. They would have thrown me right off the freaking course.
Yeah, like you ever seen the medieval jousts?
Yeah.
Right. Well, they don't work with golf carts and golf clubs, and that's all I'm going to say. But yeah, that was essentially what happened.
That's greatness right there.
Well, a real quick backstory: when me and Snake were playing racquetball, and I had long hair at the time, and I was kicking his ass, and then all of a sudden he was like, "All right, if you win, I'll give you $1,000. If you lose, you got to shave your head."
True story.
I had to shave my freaking head.
Yep.
I remember when I left for tour. When we left for tour, I had clean shaven, long blonde hair. And when I came back, I had a goatee and a shaved head. And I went into my mom's house.
Yep.
She was on the phone in the kitchen. And she looks at me, she drops the phone. And she goes, "Who are you and what the hell you want?" I was like,
oh my God, that's funny.
Me. It's Michael. And then she picked up the phone. She's like, "Andy, the son of a bitch shaved his head. I got to call you back." Unbelievable.
Oh my God, it's the best. That's cool. Yeah, it was like that one.
You ever play golf with Alice Cooper? Apparently he's the shit.
He's amazing.
Scratch golf.
He's amazing. I've had the opportunity to play in some of these like quote unquote celebrity tournaments or whatever, TJ Martell stuff. And 1 year, a radio station, and I forget where it was, but it was the most amazing thing. I got asked to play in it, and I flew in the night before. And of course, it's like, okay, am I going to sit in my hotel room or am I going to the bar? And we all know what the answer to that is. So I get done at the bar when they close, probably around 2:00, and I've got to be up and out of my hotel room at 6. So I'm like, all right, I've done this before, And so I get out of my hotel room. I walk downstairs. I get in the back of a limo. And who's in the back of the limo that is supposedly on the team that I'm playing with is Tiny Tim, the ukulele player. Wow. Oh, wait. And Killer Kowalski, the old wrestler.
Who trained me.
Did he really?
Yes.
Dude.
That's who trained me.
My grandmother, who couldn't speak a word of English, Polish woman.
Oh, uh-huh.
We used to watch Killer Kowalski. I was 5 years old, and she loved him, even though he was one of the biggest heels back then. She loved him because he was Polish. So, and he had the worst toupee in the world.
Yep. God rest his soul, but yep.
And he was so kind. Like, to me, he was so kind.
They call you the Snake.
Yep.
Why do they call you that? Ha ha ha. Yeah, that's
as soon as I told him about my grandmother and her excursion from Poland to the United States and how I would watch him on a black and white television just to date myself. He was so cool. Like, and I couldn't believe it. Oh my God, I was marking out big time, man.
Do you speak Polish then fluently, or?
No, I know one phrase because my mother spoke it. And it's Shlaka Glova, which means shithead. I heard that a lot growing up.
That's so. I actually think Killer used to say that. I'm not lying. I
could
don't know if
imagine.
it's like a weird.
It was popular. It was popular in the Polish culture.
How was he at golf with those giant hands?
He didn't even play. Either did Tiny Tim. They were just showing up because of their celebrity, I guess.
So did you? And so you saw the hands though? How like?
Oh my gosh, dude!
Disproportionate. So he used to like. This is share a brief Kowalski story with you. So
yes, please.
He agreed to train me at 16. I finagled my way in. Of course, my parents had to sign the permission slip, but I was able to convince them. I get trained. I start doing a show. Like I start working shows. So he goes, "Yes, you come and ride with me." So it was like, all right. It was me, a guy named Tim McNeely, and someone else, I think Nick or something like that. Well, doesn't matter. But Killer would drive, and he had this white Ford Explorer, and his hands were so big, like if the steering wheel was like that, he would grab the steering wheel like this and just drive with the wheel on. If you can picture this, right? This is how. And now he is 70 something, right? North of 70, and he's driving, and we're coming back from the show on whatever road it was. It was a highway. And I'm there, and again, I'm like maybe now 17. Still
is this in Massachusetts?
Yes. The show was in New Hampshire. We're going back to Massachusetts, and again, I'm still in high school at this point. So like I had the juxtaposition of having the nuns telling me to tuck my shirt in, and then going and getting like steel chairs swung by grown men because at 17 you're not fully developed yet. So it was an interesting time in life. So I'm in the back. And the guy Tim's in the front seat. He goes, "Guys, don't look now, but Walter's asleep." And he was grabbing the wheel like this, and when I mean out, he was.
Wow,
driving there,
and the car started to veer off, and Tim just goes bink, like straightens the wheel, and we go straight. We start to veer off again, but we must have gone. I mean, I'll say about 2 miles. Maybe it was 100 yards. I have no idea. It felt like an eternity, but I mean, I was legitimately scared for my life because they're like, "Hey, Aaron, you got to wake Walter up. You got to wake Walter up." And I was the kid and I didn't want to because he's my trainer and it was a whole thing. But yeah,
you're 17 years old.
Scared the crap out of me. Oh my God. Yeah.
Insane.
That's a great story, man.
That's a good one.
Walter driving?
Yes.
Oh my God.
He would have to drive. That was his thing. Like, so people would ride with him to make sure that he doesn't die. Like that was, it was to protect the safety of all the other motorists that are using the roads. Like, yeah, it was, he was interesting. He was so cool, but yeah, he had his ways about him like we all do.
I'll tell you what, man, watching him back in the day, he was like a terrifying guy. And so it was really weird. I mean, took somebody's ear off, Yukon Eric's ear off with a knee drop. And so to me, as a 5-year-old kid, that was like Frankenstein attacking somebody, and and so, but it was so strange because my grandmother was cheering for him. So at 5 years old, I'm like, "You're a monster too." It's like, guys, hold on 1 second. I got to get my power cable because I'm about to run out. Hold on.
All right.
Talk amongst yourselves.
Well, this is so cool because like when you asked me to come on here, I had no idea that Snake would know who I am. This is wow.
I didn't tell him either, by the way. It was a
No,
surprise.
he's like,
yeah.
he remembered the title I held that I forgot.
Snake, what was going on? I didn't say a word. And then Michael was great. He brought up the wedding stuff, and you weren't on yet. So I texted Michael like, you got to get on right now.
Yeah,
the
as soon
timing.
as I saw that, I was like, I hope I catch this story because.
You came in perfectly because he just
is a hell of a story.
I'm like, hold on a minute, and I clicked the button, and Snake's face was like, oh fuck, that's.
I know. I saw his name come up. I'm like, okay, time for me to go.
Yeah, that's.
I see this asshole enough.
Right.
Joel,
Yeah.
the cool part about this whole thing, Joel, is, when Mike jumped in, Mike was essential in the film, going back in its inception. It started as a TV reality show. We were pitching in the 06, 07 era before it really blew up. And then, Mike being a Jersey guy, I reached out and we interviewed him in his driveway, sitting on his Harley with my little 8mm thing. And we're just using it as placeholders. And then as the reality show thing went away, the movie evolved, and I was like, hey, Mike, I'm doing this thing. And before I could say, would you help me? He was like, I'm in. And
Yeah.
Mike took me I worked with Mike in Sweden on the Skid Row thing for a weekend. And then we did the first Shiprocked in 09. And then Mike and I did a studio thing together for a while. So it's kind of cool how it's all coming full circle. I'm promoting Snake's in. This is all great. The whole wrestling world and
It's fun.
Snake, the WCW thing with the Pyro guys on the Kiss tour.
Oh, that's right.
We went to a bunch of, shows with them guys too. So it's so much fun. It's so full circle. It's really cool, Joel, that you put this all together like this.
Absolutely.
You know, it's interesting.
Something Snake was saying before, I was holding on to this one. You were talking about seeing wrestling shows at Roosevelt Stadium.
Yeah.
Wasn't part of Kiss Alive taped at Roosevelt Stadium?
Yes, you're absolutely right. It was
Wrestling connection.
Yeah. Well, what's funny is that whenever we went to Japan, there would always be some sort of events going on over there with North American wrestlers involved in it. Like, countless times we'd be playing and the Road Warriors would be at our show, and Brian Pillman, God rest his soul. Same thing with the Road Warriors. Great people. And, Marcus Laurinaitis, who's the youngest brother of the Laurinaitis family, is a dear friend. And so he wrestled for a little while, a character called the Terminator. And so he did really well in Japan for a little while there. So we became good friends, and obviously his brother and Jim and Dr. Death, Steve Williams, another one who passed too soon. And I'm trying to think of some of the other guys, but that's initially where I met Jericho was in 95 in Japan. We took my friend Elwood, who was our guitar tech at the time, who's now ironically the bass player of ZZ Top after being Billy Gibbons's guitar tech for the last 20 years. Wow. Yeah. Dusty Hill wanted him to take his place. That was his request.
That's the same Elwood. I was always wondering if the Elwood was a joke name because of the Blues Brothers, but that's the same guy.
Yeah.
Same guy.
Wow. There's a ZZ Top photo on the wall over there. So that's why.
Yeah. Well,
and
Elwood
that's like the fourth Blues Brother reference we've had in this conversation.
Yeah.
You're saying? Like,
nuts, right?
Like, do you remember in Europe when me and Elwood were bus surfing going?
Yes.
So they have two hatches there, one in the back lounge and one in the front. And me and Elwood going down the highway are crawling out the back one, walking the length of the bus and coming in the front one. And the last time we did it, Elwood stuck his head out and he came down. He had like a freaking pine cone sticking out of his car. Shit. He's like, all right, that's over. That was awesome.
Yeah, he and I,
right?
What's that?
I was 95, right?
Yeah, he is a huge wrestling fan. Like for Christmas one year, he signed me up for the Pro Wrestling Torch newsletter that was at the time.
Very cool.
And so he and I found this wrestling show that was going on. And they have those shows sometimes where it's not like a cafeteria, but it's set up like that because of low ceilings and the drop ceilings and stuff. And but it was a fairly big place, like it probably fit like 1,000 people in it or whatever. And someone made phone calls from the promoter, Mr. Udo's office, and we had to take 2 trains, and it took us 2 hours to get there. And Backlund was on the bill. Mil Mascaris was on the bill. I know you had earlier, you had said you have some Backlund stories, which I would just love to hear. And then Jericho was on it.
Mm-hmm.
So Jericho is obviously, as you know, he's just a huge rock and metal fan.
Oh,
and
yeah.
obviously he has his band and he's very successful with that as well. But we had released a record called Subhuman Race, and he knew all the lyrics. It was blowing my mind because he's in the ring getting thrown into the ropes, yelling lyrics from one of our songs. I was like, this person's crazy. And we've been friends ever since.
That's cool. That's
Yeah.
awesome. Yeah.
So I always loved going there to Japan because you never knew who you would run into.
Mm-hmm.
And it's always a great feeling to be able to run into people who are from back home.
Yes.
Yeah. You know what? But the hard thing is you just don't know when the night's going to end. That's the big problem.
Yep.
And you know who's notorious for that was the Nasty Boys. Notorious.
Knobs more than Sags.
Oh yeah.
The first time I met Brian Knobs was at the Hard Rock in Tampa, and I was in FCW at the time. So like, I was with Aron Anderson.
Yeah.
And like Aron is just, I tell you what, I don't have enough good things to say about him, both as an in-ring talent and as a human being and as an agent to be able to have like worked with him. We bonded over the logic of playing the 50-cent, 25-cent slot machines, because you have like a better chance of winning than the smaller ones, and you're not. So like we had to, and again, there were free drinks. So like we were always like, that was our thing. Right. So we're sitting there. And then, I mean, I swear, and it wasn't full, but there was a few people around. You just hear, "Hey, where's that fucking ass?" And like, you know, he's got his hand like this, and he goes, "Son of a bitch!" And like, we looked, and there, I mean, I'm talking a blonde mohawk. He's about 300 pounds. Looks like he has been drenched with a garden hose. He's got sweat pouring off him constantly, by the way. Yeah, this is constant. He's like red because he's just the amount of alcohol and God knows whatever else in his system. And he's dressed in all black. He looks like he has a polo shirt on and dress pants. And Aron's just like, God, like he's pissed because he doesn't want to have to deal with him. And Knobs just goes, "Look, these effing marks at the casino, they tell me I can't come in here and da-da-da. These are Zubas, look," and just proceeds to drop his pants, and his stuff is hanging out just right on the casino floor, and he's going like this, and I'm going, okay, this is a real thing. This is a real human being, and the stories are true. And
this is the first time you met him?
First time I ever met him, and I'm going, okay. I mean, he's a lot. He's definitely
hanging out.
He one year we were down in Tampa. Him and Sags came to the show. I believe I was introduced to them through DDP, probably, and we became quick friends and stuff, and kept in contact. And so they came to the show, and our drummer at the time, Rob, made the mistake of just hushing underneath his breath that wrestling was fake. And bad move, man. And Rob was just this very ignorant individual. And within a minute, Knobs had Rob pressed against the ceiling of the dressing room, like pressed up against the ceiling of the dressing room. And I'm like, I ain't saving you, man.
Like,
I'm not saving you. You deserve this. You're disrespectful. You deserve this. And finally, after give him a couple good swipes, like, you know, a couple good little elbows here and there, just to let him know that like I could smash you at any given moment. That's when our drummer was like, "Man, I'm sorry. I'll never do that again." Like, you respect these guys, man. They're for real. And then proceeded to just go full force with Knobs and Sags all night until we had to get out of there, until we had to leave. And the bus left probably 4 or 5 in the morning.
So like in terms of like, again, rock star levels, and you know, you were at, obviously, like you've experienced it, you lived it and everything. They were comparable to rock star level partying, like in terms
Beyond the
Really?
put it this
Okay.
way, you guys hit it a lot harder than a lot of guys that I knew. And I could hit it pretty good. Like I'm a pretty good seasoned veteran and
Hey, you
I
owned a
could-
couple of gas stations to prove it.
that's true. I have.
of
I
Drove through a gas station. Would you tell the cop that a zebra freaking crossed the road?
and
or-
that was when I hit the telephone pole coming
Oh.
home from Bourbon Street. That was,
That was $2,500.
yeah, ruined a really good sleep. That's all I know. There's nothing like sleeping really good and getting woken up by a telephone pole.
Yeah.
It's amazing. Or a
Catholic
gas
boys-
station.
Catholic boys, and you were talking about nuns earlier, Aaron. I shot a nun in 7th grade. In the
You're
ass.
alive to tell about it,
Yeah, I shot her in the ass with
Bro.
a BB gun. Sister Humilian, I'll never forget her.
bro.
And she just pissed me off, and my buddy Tony Parascano brought in a BB gun with CO2 thing, and she walked past me, and I ping right in the ass. She's like, "Son of a bitch!" I
Dude,
went off, and I spent 6 weeks every day after school in the convent, which was the most craziest experience I've ever had.
yeah. I mean, there are two kinds of people I never want to fight in this world. One is Bob Backlund, and the others are nuns. Like they, again, you can shoot them, but you're not going to beat a nun. Like they are a different breed, man. Like those penguins, I don't mess with them. Again, I'm a Catholic school victim, and
Penguin.
ooh,
Okay, so if you had to fight somebody, like you had to make a choice,
mhm.
Bob Backlund or Haiku.
Okay, you know what? Either way, I'm dying.
Yes.
So that's a coin toss. And here's the like Haiku has a reputation, and rightfully so, of being the toughest guy in the business. And I mean, absolutely, right? Like I'm not, and I love Haiku. I room with his son in Puerto Rico. Tom, I mean, we're friends. I'm friends with his other buddy, or his other son. Tangaloa, I think is his name now. I know him as Donnie. But love Haiku. Backlund he's not a human being. And I say this lovingly because I've had very good experiences with Bob, but here are two brief stories to illustrate Bob Backlund. And this is post like the height of him being the WWE champion. For those of you that don't know Bob Backlund, he essentially looks like a jacked Howdy Doody.
Yeah.
I mean, he does not look like he could fight his way out of a paper bag. Okay. To look at him. And I mean, he was about 240 in the day, in good shape, but with a shirt on and stuff, he's not really particularly menacing. And his demeanor, he's very nice and very into positive thinking. And I watched him. He is 62 or 63 at the time for Raw. This is called the Harvard Step Test, where you have a block. Like you see these CrossFitters when they jump onto things, right? This is about, I'd say, no more than 2.5 feet off the ground, but you simply step up and you step down, right?
Yeah.
You step up and you step down. Not really that impressive of a feat. Bob was on the second to last segment of Raw. Before Raw started, he set up this box at the monitor for over 3 goddamn hours. He just kept doing it. He didn't stop one time. He didn't stop to get a drink of water.
Yep.
He didn't stop to use the bathroom. People were coming up to him. The writers were talking to him, and he's got his little towel on, not breaking a sweat, by the way, like not one drop of sweat.
Wow.
It came time for his segment. He goes out to the ring, does a segment, and that's it. Now, you may think that's impressive. Here's another one. I'm doing a thing where I was wrestling Khali,
Mhm.
and the fans.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, I know. But I love Khali, but that chop, oh my spine is still to this day, and because you can't fake that, I'm wrestling Khali, and the fans are going to vote as to who they want to be the referee. It was
Okay.
between Sergeant Slaughter, who I love and does not get enough credit for being as much of an icon as he is. Like,
I'm such a huge fan.
larger than life. I mean, the man is a living G.I. Joe. So it was Sergeant Slaughter, Arn Anderson, who I was secretly hoping for,
Sure.
and Bob Backlund. Now, how this was going to go, okay, I'm going to get mad. I'm going to say I got kind of screwed out of the finish. I'm going to get in whoever's face. right? Whoever the fans vote on. And I didn't know legitimately who it was going to be till I was in the ring on live TV. So we had a game plan for everyone. And I'm hoping for Aron, because he's like, I'm thinking, okay, Aron, you'll kick me DDT. He's like, duck one, spine buster. I'm going, yes, I'm going to take the spine buster. So I'm marking out, right? Because
I for sure.
He goes, no, this is WWE. They're going to vote on Sarge. Trust me. This Sergeant Slaughter's going to win. And sure enough, he was right. So I ended up getting the Cobra Clutch. But when we were going over the game plan, Bob comes up to me and he goes, so I hear we may be doing something. I go, oh, yes, Bob, absolutely. And because I stole my blue robe when I was Intellectual Savior, was modeled after Bob's robe.
Okay, when he was a champ back in the day. Yeah.
And I told him that. So I had that rapport with him. And he was so cool. And we had gotten along very well. So he was like, yeah, we'll be doing this. And so I'd like to try this if you want. Like, maybe we can you throw a clothesline? Yes. Now, Snake, and for Darren and whoever else may be familiar with Bob Backlund, what do you think the logical thing is when I throw a clothesline? How does this end if Bob is going to give me his finishing move?
He's going to duck and put you in the crossface chicken wing.
Absolutely, which is essentially a hold where my hand is here and I'm like this. So I'm thinking, great, this is going to be easy. It's going to be good. I just hope he doesn't snap my arm off and get too excited, right? Which Bob is a pro. I swear to you, this is exactly what happened. I threw a clothesline. I'm about 250 pounds at the time. I throw a clothesline. The next thing I know, I am staring at my feet at the ceiling. Bob has picked me up like this on his shoulder to where my feet are parallel with the ground and my head's back here. And he has me like this. And when he picked me up, I didn't feel like, it wasn't like a jerky motion. He picked me up like a cell phone. Like, it was the most gentle thing. He's 60 something years old now at the time. And he then proceeds to go, now, most people don't know this, but my finish used to be the atomic knee drop.
That's right.
So if it's okay, after you throw a clothesline, I will pick you up in this position we're in right now. And it's okay. I control you. I'm not going to hurt you. It's okay. And we'll take a few steps back and proceeds to walk backwards with me.
Mm-hmm.
And he goes, then I'd like to do a thing where I run across the ring and is now running with me. Now there's stage hands, roadies. There's other wrestlers that are looking like, what the is going on? Because Backlund has me and I am helpless. I had no choice but to be picked up like this. And he's like running with me and he goes, so I'll do this. And then if it's okay, I'll set you down, sell it, and I'll put you in the chicken wing. And I just looked at him and I went, Bob, I guess so. It was the only other human being I have ever felt strength like that from is Mark Henry.
Yeah. Well, geez. Yeah. Wow.
No, but like,
that's impressive. Yeah.
Bob, I mean, at 60 something years old, to have that kind of, it's not human. And that's the only way I can describe it. It's just not human.
My profile picture on my Instagram account is Bob Backlund putting me in a crossface chicken wing backstage at the Barclays Center.
Dude, yep. I'll follow you on the gram right now, but that's I went to go see Chris and brought my family back there. Mm-hmm. And everybody, I mean, people just, again, I credit my experience with the people in that industry that you're in. Mm-hmm. People have just been so kind. They have extended themselves so graciously. Anytime that we've been back, whether it was back in the day and it was when the NWA came to the Meadowlands and Flair and Luger and everybody were there and the Rock and Rolls, and Flair was calling me, sir, and can you sign an autograph for my son, which I think was for David. And he was like, yeah, my daughter has a poster of you on a wall. I'm like, oh, you've got, stop it, like that. And now it's Charlotte, Yeah. And but everybody has always been so unbelievably gracious. I mean, Mark, the Undertaker, he was incredible. Like, I'll never forget, we were at the Meadowlands. We go to say hi. He brings us back and he's like, you guys know my manager, Paul Bearer? And I'm like, this is just the
crazy. And of course, I knew him by Percy Pringle from WCCW because I used to follow every federation there ever was. And so it was just, everybody had always been, and still to this day is, just so generous with their time. And Xavier Woods comes up and gives my daughter one of the unicorn things for a thing. Cool. Yeah. And we're like in fourth row, and Bailey takes her shirt and goes to give it to the audience, and some person goes to grab me. She goes, no, like that, and points to my daughter and gives it to my daughter. And it's things like that those kids are never going to forget. And then they go and they watch, they put on TV on a Monday or a Friday, and they're like, oh my gosh, that's the girl who gave me your shirt. And there's Charlotte and Sasha Banks. They gave us bagels backstage.
Yeah.
It's like, it's just, it says a lot for the integrity of you guys. Cause it's the way it was with, NWA, WCW guys, even when like I got to know Brian Adams when he was in the Pacific Northwest. And he came out to some shows when we were in Seattle. And who was he with? Was he with Steve Dahl? He was with somebody. And we became friends and stayed in contact until he passed away, unfortunately. And he was a great guy. And so I've never had a bad experience with any of the guys in your business. So that says a lot. And I can't say that about the guys in the rock business. There's a lot of people who are not cool.
I was going to piggyback that. I've never had a dealing with a heel that wasn't the nicest in real life. And then the baby faces, or the good guys, whatever you want to call them, that's who generally the problems were in everyday existence.
Hold on, let me see.
It's funny because I think there's a degree, right, of when someone else from another form of entertainment comes into our world, like we are going to like we said before, right? You're not on the fence with wrestling. It's either really cool or that's completely fake and phony, and y'all need to get some real jobs. So like when other artists kind of come into our world, or athletes or anyone, like we are just more prone to really kind of show them that respect because we appreciate it. And at the same time, like understanding like, hey, we're all people, and like, hey, some kids like bagels, and like, of course we'll have, and just, it's that, like that setting. Cause like, we want to make people feel welcome, I think in general, because we just appreciate the appreciation, if anything else. Right. And I do know what you mean. Like, there are some baby faces that have been, and I'm talking like within the inner workings of things. Cause like in the music industry, there's always, like you said, right, there's heels and faces in real life, right? Like there's people who are jerks in real life. So, and wrestling is no different. It's just I feel as a heel, it's almost this very therapeutic, if not cathartic nature to it, because like when I was Sandow, I could go and I could crap on mass groups of people at a time. So there's no need to be a jerk in real life because I've gotten it out, So when people ask for autographs and stuff, yes, I'd of course be a little bit eccentric, and I'd go into the, how do you spell your name? Are you aware this came from Latin, meaning, some kind of weird thing? But I would make it enjoyable for them. And I think with baby faces, when you have to be so nice all the time, and that, you have to be that guy or that girl, like, at some point, the human condition, which has all emotions in it, there needs to be a balance. So I think, Darren, to your point, that's could be a reason for that.
One of the greatest things I saw, like, was at that show when we went and hung out with Edge and Kane and those guys. And Del Rio had just gotten done with his match, and it was just a house show. It wasn't a TV show. And so there's a bunch of kids around the ring with magazines wanting them to sign it, and he smacked them out of all their hands. And I was like, yes.
Yes, amazing. But that's what a heel does. That's what a bad guy does. That's essentially what, I mean, see, that's the beauty of wrestling, right? In like, so in the music industry, or in athletics or any other form, like let's look at theater, right? You want this, you want to know that you rock the place, right? Yeah. Wrestling is the only form of entertainment to where you can be, and again, not all the time, but like if like as a heel, like, okay, I now have to get everyone in the Staples Center chanting Sandow sucks. Like I have to get these people to hate me, you know? And
awesome.
it's a very different kind of process you go through cathartically, because you're like, no, if you really want to be the best bad guy you can be, you cannot, like, you have to shun their adulation, but at the same time being able to engage them to a point of where they do want to, you know, react and give you something. So that's what
I'm curious about something, because I go back and I watch old footage from like the 50s and the 60s of shows that were particularly at the old Garden. And you would see it was like old women in glasses and dudes smoking cigars, and they would get, because there was no boundary. Like they were 6 feet away from the ring, and they would go after wrestlers with their cigars or like their knitting needle out of their head or something like it was. And it was like, that was genuine heat. Like they had, the Buddy Rogers had real heat. Like Gorgeous George had real monumental heat. Like he was the first guy that had like the
persona.
Like,
oh, wait a minute, I'm going to like TV is a thing, and I let me get a robe, let me do this, let me do that, and just, he was the human orchid, he was called, and it's a
that's right.
God, I mean, like that's, you talk about a guy that changed the game. That's insane.
Well, I guess my question for you is, did you ever have heat that was so massive that you were kind of nervous?
There was like, I was always able, like when I was a bad guy, like to get people to hate, and it was especially like with the Sandow character. You know, I was lucky enough, but that was always kind of like regulated to the safety of the arena we were in, which was usually, you know, like a Staples Center or a Garden or something like that. There was one time, and you know, again, aside from like the burns I have from the pennies and like the old ladies macing, and you occasionally get stuff thrown. There was one time in Puerto Rico that I was legitimately scared for my life, to where I'll go ahead. Here we go. So I was working for Carlos Colon, right? Now I was the heel, like the big heel. Americans are better than Puerto Rico, yada yada. Cooks wouldn't serve me at certain restaurants, so people hated me, right? Like I was not liked. But
they wouldn't serve you.
Yeah, I couldn't go to Denny's. It sucked.
Wow.
How do I put this kindly? There's a giant housing project in Puerto Rico. I'm talking massive. The thing is like a small city, and it's in San Juan on the way to Bayamon. The local pharmacist, shall we say, in the housing project, who was a pharmacist and president kind of at the same time in terms of how he ran things, was a wrestling fan.
In high places.
No, I don't know him, but he was a wrestling fan, and he decided, because it's not just like the nasty stuff. Like people do take care of people in their neighborhoods there, which is very interesting. You know, regardless of what you do for a living, so to speak. They're very much like you have to be a figure in the community. So for the community, he decides he wants to put on a wrestling show.
Right.
Okay. So he asked one of the boys that was in the locker room that he knew if I wouldn't mind coming and taking a third-party booking to be the big heel on the wrestling show. Now, then the head guy was totally cool. Like he was in on it. He understands it's a work. They offered me some decent money, and I'm like, okay, yeah, whatever.
Right.
So the ring is set up in an intersection. Okay. It's just like there's two streets. The ring is in the middle of the intersection. There are no permits. Food trucks are there. The people themselves have barricaded the streets, so you can't. Children are leaning up against the ring, so there is zero barrier, nothing. I changed in somebody's house, like literally. Now there's, again, streets are just chock full of people. Then there's people hanging over there, like the on their stoops, like in the porches. It's about probably like 4 or 5 stories high. So people are out on the balconies yelling. There's, noisemakers. There's, like stuff going there. There was glow sticks. It was like a friggin' carnival. I come to the ring, and actually, I don't know, like legally, I mean, we're not. But my I had a Kiss theme song. I Was Made for Loving You was my theme song.
Oh, it's great.
So I come walking right, and here come the booze, whatever. And I had people like that were my security to the ring, which ironically it was like Moses, the C's part of it. But then once I got in the ring and I was by myself, different story. Something, I don't know if it was a rock or whatever, it came so close to where like it moved my hair, but I heard it go, and it wasn't like a, you know, FU kind of thing. It was like a scene from Braveheart, to where it was like, okay, that was a bit much. And then something else hit me in the leg. And then I looked, and because it was nighttime out, and I mean, it was like out of a movie, man. Like they were just like cars with their lights on. That's how the ring was lit. And they were the street lights. And I'm seeing, you know, napkins and stuff, but like other stuff being thrown too. And I'm going like, okay, this is bad. Right now, I'm like covering up.
Of course it is.
By the grace of God, I go, okay, like I am in a bad position. So what I did, I went to one side of the ring and I stood on the middle rope, but I was facing inside the ring. I pulled my pants down and mooned him. And no, but like I gave him a target, because I would rather everyone, you know, if I moon them, they're going to throw stuff at my ass. Yeah. So I literally let one side just throw everything they had. And I was like this, covering up from the front so it wouldn't get me on, you know, from any other direction. And when I felt like a bunch of stuff calm down, I did it on the other side. So everyone kind of like did it. Now I couldn't sit down for a while, but that was like, if I don't do something, like I could get seriously injured. And the little kids around the ring, one of the little bastards broke my pinky finger and stomped on it when I was in the cell. But that was, again, I was just happy to be out of there with my life. So that was the only time I was ever really kind of like, okay, this ain't good.
You ever throw a roadie in front of you, Snake? You ever throw a TJ in front of you?
Oh, actually, there was a moment in TJ. There was a moment where we were performing in New Mexico, and I believe it was Albuquerque. And to say that there were drunk folks there who have Native American ancestry in their blood would be an understatement. And there was a guy in the back giving me the finger the whole night, like not the band, me. And so I got on the mic and I'm like, I called him out and put the spotlight on him because I'm a tough guy. I'm a real tough guy. And luckily I see TJ, who legitimately is, behind the PA cabinets. No one can see him, but I know he's there. So I've got TJ muscles right now, because I know I could run like a little girl and have TJ stand in front of me.
Hell yeah.
I'm calling this guy up and he's getting closer. And truth be told, I'm getting a little nervous. You know, I don't have my beer muscles yet. This isn't after the show. This is during the show. So, but my adrenaline's going. I'm like, I can't let this guy do this. Like, I can't let him get away with this in front of all these people. So I say something and I'm getting heat on this guy. Like they're starting to boo him and stuff like that. But he's coming closer. And because I'm egging him on and I'm like, well, come on. Yeah, you want, let's have at it type of thing. And then finally, and I'm confident because I got TJ. I know TJ will immediately fly like Superman, like he did in Memphis, and clock this guy into Las Cruces.
You're DiBiase, he's Virgil.
Exactly.
Yep.
Thank you.
Yep.
And I had some semblance of sanity and clarity, and I was able to sit there and change the dialogue of the conversation by going something to the effect like, dude, do you really want to do this? Like, aren't we supposed to be brothers? Like, aren't we supposed to be here enjoying music together? Like, there's no reason for us to be at odds. Like, let's enjoy this together. Let's have a beer together, and turn it around. And the next thing you know, the guy's clapping and like this. I'm like, oh, that was easy. Why didn't I just do that to begin with, instead of attempting to be a tough guy, which I'm not, So, but yeah, that was one of those moments, And we also had another time too, where we were getting death threats. And so someone sent a death threat saying something to the effect of, beware, you're going to see a red dot on your chest.
Oof.
And sure enough, the red dot showed up and we were like, whoa.
This is with Skid Row?
Yeah.
Oof.
Yeah. It was after the bottle incident that happened in Springfield, Massachusetts. Yeah. It was scary.
Yeah,
You
hell yeah.
remember the guy in when we went skiing? When we were in where the hell were we? Were we traveling?
Killington.
Where?
We were in Killington.
Killington, yeah. What the hell did the guy say?
He said, say he was a DJ from the bar across the street. And he said something shitty about 18 in life and Skid Row. And Mike turned this guy around and bent him over the bar and had his arms behind his head and had his wrist touching the back of his neck. Guy's face is in the bar, like on the bar getting smushed. I'm going, oh God. And there was we had made friends with the owners who were from Australia, and they saw this go down and they come over and they're like, you got to let the guy go. We'll get him out of here, but you got to let the guy go. So we let the guy go, and he's like, guys, I think you're great, but you probably should get out of here and probably get out of town because the cops are on their way, and you guys are gonna go to jail. So that was the end of our trip.
Wow.
Do you guys get that, Aaron? Do you guys get that? I mean, so music guys like to fight, obviously. Thanks, Snake. So
wow.
With you guys, like, are you out with your buddies? You're drinking. We're a bunch of wrestling guys. Do you get tough guy just wanting to fight a wrestling dude?
There's like occasionally, but like, look, when we go out, it's we were in the US when I was on tour, like we were just always ready to get to the next city, and because like our schedule really didn't permit us to really party that much. But when we would go overseas, we would. There were like a couple times, like it was Scotland of all places, because Scotland's such a wonderful, friendly country.
Totally.
But I think this dude was a bit of a jerk.
What's that?
Like Scotland, like the dude was being a bit of a jerk. And
dude, okay, sorry.
But not a hell of a lot. It does happen occasionally, but like usually, and it's funny if you try to mess with one of us, like you're going to get all of us.
Oh yeah, man. Same thing
yeah.
with the road crew and the band. Yeah.
Sure.
Yeah, because like none of us want issues or problems. Like like with you guys, right? I'm sure. Yeah, you want to party, have a good time, and you're not really looking to get into a fight.
No,
it's
the
like,
last thing you want to do.
inside the tour bus, but when you're in the bar, you're fucking brothers, dude.
Yeah, exactly.
That's the truth. Yeah.
Exactly. So yeah, that's kind of the name of that tune. It's it was interesting, but there's things happened here and there. I mean, when in Impact one time, it was my first day at Impact, and I'm like, my travel crew was Santino Marella and Brodus Clay, who's now Tyrus on the Gutfield show. So like that was my posse.
Okay.
So yeah, the three of us, and we were the most unlikely trio ever, but that was who we rolled with. So I was at Impact, and Brodus and I are sitting there, we're just talking, and then some dude like comes up and just starts talking a bunch of shit, and it's just like, what?
Yeah.
Like and so that kind of it was handled, like there was no physicality, but it was like it maybe could have, but I never understood like the mentality of just with anybody, because nowadays, I mean, everyone knows jujitsu and all these other, like, you can't judge a book by its cover. Like size really doesn't mean anything. Like, why would you go to anyone and start talking a bunch of shit?
I don't know.
So
I wrote it in my book. So there was this when we were in Oregon, and these neo-Nazi guys came to the show, and they were doing the whole Heil Hitler shit in the front row, and they started throwing needles at Scott Weiland. And it sucks. I'm like, I'm gonna die from flying needle.
Yeah.
And it's scary as all hell, to be honest. Luckily, they had the caps on the needles still, actually.
Why would you do that though? Like, what is the point of
why pay the $60 to get in, to push your way to the front row, to be a dick?
Yeah.
And then I'm thinking, like, my whole thought was on this particular incident, the thought process was like, okay, we're gonna go watch this dude who's dressed in drag at the end of the show. Why do you want to come? Like, what are you there for Godsmack?
That's the $1 million question though. Like, we've asked ourselves that throughout the history of the band. Like, why would you come there just to give the band the finger or throw something at them? Like, what is the point that you're trying to get across? Like, look, I got an idea. Instead of doing that, I'll give you your money back, man. It's fine with me. I'd rather you not be here, because you're ruining it for the people around you. And
I wonder if it's like with stand-up comedians, where they just fucking rip them apart, unfortunately.
I wish I had that amount of ability, like a Dave Attell or Jeff Ross.
No, it was Norm Macdonald did one. It was his teacher who got up and yelled in the audience. And
they put that up today. Yeah.
Such a huge Norm Macdonald fan. So Task, I listen to all this stuff. So it was him just going off on this school teacher about being a hero. It's so good. I mean, it's so good.
I'm just blown away by, all the great comedians absolutely know how to respond. I mean, all the way back to, Milton Berle, when he was on the MTV Awards.
You interviewed Don Rickles, right, Darren?
I did. I think Don Rickles is better than Uncle Milty, but
without a doubt,
the round and round videos.
Don Rickles did not give a shit.
You had the opportunity to interview him?
Yeah, when I was like 18 or 19, I interviewed a lot of royalty, but that was like this awkward career phase when they were playing this venue on Long Island called Westbury Music Fair. It was like we're
totally familiar with it,
but someone had to.
How did that go? I'm interested.
Rickles?
Yeah.
I didn't understand fully that he was in character. So I thought he doesn't like me very much. And then now that I listen to it and I'm like, oh, you idiot. He was putting on a show for you.
Yeah, man.
He was super nice, but Joan Rivers was not nice. Some comedians are just not the best and others are the best. So pros and I'm usually decent with comedians, but not when I was 18.
It's incredible though, right? That whole world. I mean, you talk about just improv and having to change things up on a dime and having as extensive an understanding of the human condition, and be that witty and just, to me, that is, I tell you, one of the highest forms of art you can get. I mean, comedic timing is just absolutely insane. I mean,
I don't think you can learn it. I think you just have it.
Yeah, I agree. Because I know I couldn't do it a Don Rickles, my God, Andy Kaufman, who come on. Oh yeah, that's a different level.
He's still alive.
It's interesting. I went to see, of all people, this is going back 25 years, Howie Mandell down at in Atlantic City.
Not nice when you interview him.
What's that?
Not nice when you interview him.
Really? Well, he's a germaphobe, and so he's and
a wrestling fan.
Really?
Is he really? Not as much as Andy Kaufman was.
I know, but no, Howie Mandell. He's in. And sorry, I didn't cut you off, but I have a Howie Mandell story.
Well, what was really interesting is that I was talking at the after show or whatever that they have, and I was talking to him and his brother, and they were very, very kind, and how he went about his business. And I was talking. His brother is involved in his management, I believe, at the time, and he. I don't know how he got on the subject, but he goes, 90 to 95% of his show is improv. And I'm like, oh, I know what it was, because he just picked the lady out of the audience and started having this conversation. And everything that he said was based on what her initial response was. Wow. And I found, and you could tell that it wasn't a plant. It was for real. And so I was really, really blown away by that. I was like, that's really, I know how to improvise on a guitar, but I don't know. It amazes me to have that brain to mouth capability that you can respond so quickly with a thought based on another person's response.
It's when you same as what we said in the first time you were on here. It was how quickly you came up with guitar riffs, and I think that's so cool too. It's the same idea of how do you do that so fast?
I find it more compelling on when they do it because
you can't.
Well, I totally can't.
Right. I mean, that's it,
But it's to see it happen and then to realize that 95% of a 2-hour show is improvised. I mean, it's incredible.
Mork and Mindy. Yeah. Mork and Mindy was completely, I don't know, you would know Darren. He knows so much random shit, but Mork and Mindy, how many like I think
Is that a compliment? Like,
I think it's a compliment. I was
you
trying to
know
be a
stuff.
compliment.
That's
So I met Darren. So I'd written this book and I sent it to Darren. He goes, I do not have time to read your book. I'm like, okay, no problem. Thank you very much. Next morning, he's like, I was up all night and I read your book. And he's like, and I'm going to bring you on my thing. And he writes for all these big publications. And then we became buddies. It was kind of a cool way to meet.
That's
But
cool.
he knows all this random stuff. Mork and Mindy, I know they had seasons. There was nothing. They just had a little bit of writing here and there. And you two fill in the blanks. And it was Robin Williams and help me out here. Who was the guy who played his
Dauber, I think.
No, the one who played his son, big comedian, big guy, and he
always
played
like when you don't know who was on a sitcom, you always just go Ted McGinley, and you're.
No, you guys will know it. Hold on, he's a big comedian. He played Mork's son. And,
That was a Gary Marshall show, right?
Probably. It was a spinoff of Happy Days, so probably.
Yeah. By the way, Vinnie Vincent wrote music for Happy Days. Did you know that?
What?
I'm pretty sure Vincent Cusano, Vinnie Vincent, wrote music for Happy Days.
That's incredible.
If I'm totally wrong, Joel gave you that information.
Yeah.
Okay,
right.
here's
this one. I
another
just checked. It's Jonathan Winters. Jonathan Winters played Mork's son. Remember?
Yeah.
Oh,
They would
that's
just tell
right.
them, here's how we need it to end. This is where we need it to start. Go. And everybody else in the cast would just try to hang on. And it
How
was just
creepy was
freaking
that,
Robin
though?
Williams and Jonathan Winters just going for it.
Crazy.
I remember that now. That was creepy to me as a kid, seeing Jonathan Winters' face.
Well, the whole creepy thing is that he's supposed to be the son, and you're kind of like, I don't know. I couldn't get over it either.
No, I mean, as a however old I was, I mean, now it's funny for sure, but
Yeah.
when I was that age,
Aliens, you know?
yeah. So, Aaron, I got another wrestling question for you because I'm that guy. What do you think about the whole deathmatch wrestling, Nick Cage, GCW scene?
Yeah, you know, it's funny. Like, as a performer, personally, I'm not a fan, but you know, like we were talking, right? I never let my own preferences get in the way of what fans want, and there's obviously a market for it. You know, to me, right, like the pro wrestling is an art form. You just have to be so engaged with your audience that they forget it's fake. That's when, you know, when they're really emotionally engaged, that means you've done your job, because they forgot that you're a grown man play fighting in your underpants, which is what wrestling is. Make no mistake about it, right?
Yeah.
But when done correctly, you know, look, Ivan Drago wasn't really Ivan Drago. You know what I mean? He was Dolph Lundgren, but we were hooked in, right? So now with the death matches, if there is a market for it and there is an art form, now to me, the art form gets lost in like how you can mangle your body. I mean, taking a weed whacker or having someone take a weed whacker to your ass is not my idea of a good time. Now, look, as a dude, if someone said, hey, this dude's going to willingly get a weed whacker, I'm going to watch. I mean, this guy's going to fall off a building and he's going to take a bunch of fluorescent light tubes, you know, piss on them, light it on fire, and have a bunch of thumbtacks on top of it. And he's going to jump off a building and go through it. Yes, I'm going to watch it.
Yeah.
Like, because
it's a car wreck.
It's a car wreck. Yeah. But again, like to Nick Gage, right? If that's what he does and he has built up a name for himself, who am I to say, yeah, I don't do that. Now, would I do it? Like, look, if it was, you know, we had 100,000 people at $500 a ticket and I had to do a death match for 10 minutes and it could be in a controlled environment. Look, the right circumstance, of course, I'd probably do one if I knew I wasn't going to get killed. But would I do it like just to do it and say, yeah, we're going to be at, you know, Georgia Broadcasting Studios, like, and have no, like I'll rely on my skill set that I've kind of developed to do that. So like to your point, it's just, there's only so much you can see, right? Like you can only, the human body is only capable of doing so much, right? Mick Foley getting thrown off the top of the cage at Hell in the Cell, in my opinion, visually, was the height of that extreme style of wrestling, only because, right, like it's wrestling and, oh, well, the blood isn't real, and or that barbed wire isn't real, and those aren't real thumbtacks. Like there's always going to be the people in the crowd questioning that, you know what I mean? Right. Because and 90% of the time it is real thumbtacks and bob. It's not a work, but you'll always have that. You cannot fake a human being being thrown off a 20-foot cage onto a table, like, and his tooth goes through his lip, and like it was insanity. Fake that stuff. Yeah. So to me, that was the height of what the human body is capable of. And
well, after that, then he goes back and gets thrown through the top of the cage onto the ring, which
was an accident.
I know.
Which was a complete. I mean, that was. And by the way, I think the Undertaker was working with a broken ankle. To go back to your story of playing, yeah, I think Mark had a broken ankle there. I'm not 100% sure, but
I mean, for anyone to never call you guys athletes, I think is the most disrespectful bullshit that there is, because you guys are so unbelievably athletic and fight through so much pain. Mm-hmm. It's crazy.
Well, it's amazing what 10,000 people screaming your name will do to you.
Oh, that's the truth.
And that's and you get that. Like we can, when you're at the Garden, I mean, if you have a broken ankle, if you have been up for 3 nights, if your life is falling apart, when you are at that moment and you are about to be introduced, right? Whether it's as a band, as a wrestler, as a whatever, and you are about to walk out in Madison Square Garden, nothing else matters. Right?
I can attest to all that.
Yeah,
I've been in all those situations, and that's the beauty of being, like, for me, music has always been the saving grace. It's the one thing that when everything else failed, it was there.
Yeah.
And you have yours as well as your acting career, but you have like your passion where you
but it's not the same. Like I just did a movie with Billy Zane a couple of weeks ago, right? Like that was my first major kind of thing on where I felt like, oh wow, I'm an actual actor. This is kind of cool. Right. But and like the TV is cool and everything. And but like, when you could be an actor, I want to be in movies. And this was like the biggest thing I'd done. So it was awesome.
Congratulations. That's great.
Yeah, man.
Thank you. But
did he win or lose?
I don't think it ended well.
Yeah, don't spoil it. Don't spoil it.
But like,
there you go.
Awesome, but it's not the same. It is not the same as like when you have that energy from that live crowd. When a building full of screaming people, it becomes one living entity. It's weird, right? And look, I mean, I have experimented with several mind-altering substances. I've partied a little bit.
I applaud that.
Thank you. There is no drug that I have done that is equal to that.
No, without a doubt.
There's none.
Okay, so for both of you guys, sorry to jump in, but so my question is to you, Snake, you've been off the stage playing for a little while. Aron, you're switching up careers to be an actor. Mm-hmm. You got to miss a little bit performing on the stage. You're talking about loving it so very much. So I think the answer is obvious. Yeah, of course. But what's the change like? I remember for years, and you have dreams of leaving high school and remembering that you had a test due and all these. For me, it's being a roadie and thinking Charlie Hernandez is going to kick my ass for forgetting something or another. And it can go on for a while. I don't know. I'm not a psyche person. But what's it like for you guys to dramatically change your careers? Is it scary? Is it exciting? Is it a bit of both? What do you want? Would you go back on the stage, both of you? I know Aron, you're performing still, but
well, we've been touring. We went out and did our first few shows starting last month, and excuse me, it was our first show was out in Northern California, and it, because of this pandemic, has shut everything down. And we were kind of, it wasn't by choice that we couldn't perform. It was mandated. You just, guess what? Your livelihood is being taken away from you, and we don't know for how long. Yeah. And that's a really sobering hurdle to navigate. While on one hand, everything that you love from from a livelihood standpoint has that in that you've done for 30, 40 years of your life is all of a sudden being stripped from you. Can't do it. The good side of it is that you get to spend time with your family and whatnot that you never had before. Like I've never was ever home for an 18-month period of time since we started Skid Row. Never, without playing a show or being in the studio. Mm-hmm. So it was really, really sobering. Mm-hmm. And my mental health was absolutely tested throughout the duration of it. And then all of a sudden you get to play a show. And it was like the heavens opening up and going, guess what? You know what? Just kidding. We're not going to take it away from you forever. And what a humbling experience, because that's when you really, really get down to the meat and potatoes of things, why you're there. And it's that interaction with the audience. And it's the way that we are receiving something from them and in turn also giving something back, and this feeling of community and not being whoops, I just took a picture of my screen, and not being deterred from that joy that you get from music. And so again, the reason why I guess that goes back to the reasons why you do things to begin with. And music for me was never about money, and it was never about even, being the biggest star on the planet. For me, it was always about communicating through my songs, and then eventually through our songs, to get out emotionally what I couldn't verbalize or communicate otherwise. And that was, to me, the goal was to be as good of a guitar player and songwriter as I possibly could be and make a living at it.
Were you writing during the pandemic?
Yes and no. Yes. I guess the answer is yes. Was I writing anything good is the question. And I don't think that I was, to be quite honest. I think that and maybe it was, and I'm going to have to go back and revisit it, because maybe that was just my mindset, where nothing was good enough. And I was forcing it. And I certainly wasn't.
Did you send any of this stuff to Rachel?
Actually towards the end, because we started working on the record again, and in the studio with Nick Raskulinitz, who is just, does the Foo Fighters, Hailstorm, Stone Sour, Rush, Mastodon, who's just an amazing talent, like, so just crazy. And so he was like, we need some more songs. And so I guess when I'm put with that pressure to create, because we need something, like, there was no pressure in the pandemic. It was like, tomorrow's going to be the same as today. But once I was forced with that, and then I started coming up with riffs, and then Rachel and I would get together and we would turn that into
So the pressure is good for you, or bad?
Yes.
It's good.
Always has been.
All right. So you're a kid, you're writing all the big hit songs that we all know. You had pressure because
writing.
You wanted to be a rock star? You wanted to be the man?
Well, I certainly loved the idea of being notable, recognized in the business, respected. You had asked a question earlier, and this is really interesting. You asked a question earlier about when did I feel famous? You asked us.
Yeah, I told you, and it's from a fifth grader, and it's the best one I got, man. I don't know. Did I ask you that question when you were on, Aaron?
Yeah. No.
I had Aaron on earlier with Al Snow, which was one of my first episodes, and I don't know if I was asking people that. Maybe. So the question was, it was my friend's daughter who's in fifth grade, and she said, you need to ask every person when they first felt famous, and the answers have been fucking great.
Well, for me, it's pretty interesting because Mike was there when it happened. we started touring with Bon Jovi in January of 1989. Things started taking off for us in February a little bit. Youth Gone Wild was starting to get some traction on MTV. March came along, it started building, and you know, one of the things that we prided ourselves on always is being a really good live band. We wanted to, and we all work really, really well as a unit, as the underdogs. And we were. No one knew who we were. We were going on before a band who was the biggest band in the world at the time. And we had to figure out a way to hold our own and to make an imprint on those 15, 20,000 people that were there. And that just came through every night was a challenge for us. Like, we needed to rise up to a challenge. And whether that was self-imposed or whatever, but that was the thing. Like, we can't, good is not good enough. It's got to be great. And
Competition is fierce.
And we would watch every show after the show. Like, we'd have a high 8 camera out at the soundboard, and we only played 45 minutes, and then we'd be partying and stuff like that. And then once we got on the bus, we hooked it up to the television, and we'd all watch the show. And this way we figured out quickly what we weren't doing well and what we were doing really well. And that's what honed us quicker than a lot of other bands, because a lot of bands didn't do that. Prince did it till the day he died, which is pretty amazing. It shows you how ambitious he is. But so for us, the trajectory was moving upwards at a good enough rate where we weren't necessarily aware of it. We were living in a bubble. You know, you see the adulation from the crowd when you're on stage, but you know, you're backstage after the show, and then you're on a tour bus driving to the next town. And every once in a while, you know, you'll do an in-store or something like that, and you see that. But what happened was December, Christmas time of 1989, we had been out for 11 months. At that point, we were getting ready to go. We had just got back from Europe with Motley Crue, and we were getting ready to go out on tour with Aerosmith. And Mike and I went Christmas shopping at a place called the East Brunswick Square Mall. And I didn't think anything of it. Mike didn't think anything of it. We're just two idiots from Sayreville, New Jersey. And I happen to play guitar in a band, and you know, he happens to look like an idiot, and we're cool. So we're in the mall, and we're walking around, and people start coming up to us and asking for autographs. Like, oh, wow, this is pretty cool. Well, before we knew it, there was about 300 people surrounding us.
Oh, wow.
And it was like, I mean, I truthfully, I'm not the guy that, you know, looks for the hug. It's like, I had no idea that it would be like that. And it was because I was always taught to be humble and to be gracious and to think of everything and take everything that comes to you in life as a gift. My mother taught me that. She embedded it in my head.
Yeah.
And it served me well throughout my whole career to have that viewpoint. And so we were innocently Christmas shopping, and then all of a sudden we're surrounded by all these people. And I'm like, holy crap, like, people actually know who I am and know the band that I'm in and want me to sign their autographs. And we had to get escorted out by police through the back behind the stores, the hallways behind the stores. Wow. Because the police I was fine standing there all day and signing stuff. I love doing that, you know. But they felt it was a security matter. It was also kind of messing with the people who were actually trying to go Christmas shopping. You know,
there you go. Money. Sorry, the dollar bill.
Yeah.
That was the moment that I'll always remember and go, wow, okay, so life is a little different now.
Isn't it hard though? You have carpal tunnel, right? Isn't it hard to sign shit all the time?
No.
Really?
Yeah, you use your elbow. Like if you can use your elbow or your shoulder. If your wrist gets hurt, you just go like the boom, 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 and it's like yeah.
Well, I have a glass eye, so I just pop my eye out and throw the marker in there.
What was the one, Aaron, you had to do recently? You had to sign like thousands of autographs somewhere.
That
No, you had something recently. I'm like, how the fuck do you do that? And you're like, use your elbow.
Oh no, that was actually, it's funny. Like that was when I first felt famous. Ironically, that was the one in Paris where
Oh, that might have been. I did ask you.
Yeah, yeah. So we must have talked about that then. Yeah, but yeah, it was just one of those things where like similar to where you're living in that bubble. Like you're on the road full time, and it's like no, you're used to going to Gold's Gym, go to the arena, and then you're hitting Waffle House at about 1 or 2 in the morning, and then you go to the hotel. So you just live in that world. You live in that world, and it's nice to have the adulation or hatred in my case from the people, except in Paris. And this was about like probably a couple months after like the Paris incident happened when I was a babyface there. It was for the video game was coming out, and WWE, I think it was 2K. They were like, we're sending you, and it was just me by myself to kind of like, I came off the road to do this autograph signing, and I'm thinking, okay, cool. It's at a con. I'll sit there and, well, I was the only one signing, and there was a lot more people that showed up than expected. And it's funny because I'm not big on like pictures and this, like I don't have like a room with all my belts that I've won. Hey, like it's just like whatever. It's kind of is what it is, and it's very just it's all part of the show. But I have this picture. It's on my phone, and it's like it's the first time I ever went, okay, holy shit. Like what the hell? Like they're here to see me. Like this is kind of crazy. And I ended up staying like it was 3 hours overboard because I was like, if anyone like to me, right? Like we get up and we're still people. Like you still have to eat. You have to take care of your business. You got to pay your bills. So to me, like I was fortunate enough to have a very kind of grounded upbringing. And who am I to, if anyone's going to stand in line for me writing my name with a Sharpie, like I'm not going to say no to that.
Exactly.
If I can sit there and do it, I will. So that was it.
That's always the way that we've been too. But it's really interesting because I don't know how like the aftermath of that particular moment was for you. For me, like I either subconsciously or inherit or consciously knew that my life is different now. Like it's like, but I was thankful because all my friends that I went to school with and high school with were still my friends. Like that never fell apart. And that, I think that's another Jersey thing where we're so loyal and committed to our friendships through the years. And still to this day, I mean, I'm 57 years old. I've known Mike, 49 of those years. And so, that's always a great grounding mechanism, to know that while outside of this circle, it may be something, but inside of the circle, I'm still the dick from Sayreville, like,
I was,
shut up, TJ.
100%. The Jersey roots.
Yeah.
No, it's always great to have that because like I was, I remember when I got my first action figure, I'm like, oh, this is so great. And then, man, when I came home, of course, my family went to Walmart and bought all of them.
Yep.
And I'll leave it at this. My uncle drilled holes in select places in the action figure and used it as.
That's awesome.
It wasn't good. It wasn't
that's
good.
Awesome.
So yeah, it was. It's just like you got to be able to laugh at it too. Like understand it's. There'll be different degrees of fame and notoriety, but at the end of the day, it's all temporal. And it's again, like to be able to go home and have that support system of friends and family it's huge.
Well, it's funny because I think that all the people that I'm still friends with, and as of today, my friendship with TJ ends. But everybody else that I'm friends with, they didn't care. Like they were happy for you, like they're happy for your success and stuff like that. But it didn't change to them who you inherently are.
Yeah,
well, and that's so Mike, can you hear me, Mike? All right,
can't
so Mike,
hear you.
You're on mute. But would you be working in music right now, you think, if it wasn't for Snake?
I was actually, yes, because, well, he actually had like sort of an indirect way of pulling me into the music business. I saw how how he made it. And I took a different route. I was working at the Hit Factory in New York when I got out of school.
Cool.
And then I ruined my career by going on the road with him.
That's the truth. The truth.
Yeah, I left the Hit Factory. And he needed a guitar tech, and I was like, I'm coming. Why not? It was probably, and I would do it again in a heartbeat.
Yeah.
But yeah, he definitely had an indirect way of pulling me into the music business, I'd say.
But Mike worked with some heavy hitters, people like Nile Rodgers and David Lee Roth and Puff Daddy, because Mike was one of the preeminent engineers at the Hit Factory, and people loved to work with them. Not me per se, but other people.
I worked in a recording studio first, and I fucking hated it, man. It was so boring. You're stuck in this air-conditioned cube.
Oh, I love it. I love being in the studio. I love that whole process of taking something that you're creating out of nothing and seeing it to fruition, and all the steps that it takes to get there. It's, to me, it's pretty amazing, like the process of it. I don't think a lot of people understand, like when they pick up or listen to a piece of music, or back in the day when you used to pick up a CD or an album or whatever. I don't think that it's been documented enough for the public how it comes from, an idea comes from nothing. You get in a room and all of a sudden you go, what are we going to say? What are we going to talk about? And you've got to get that brain going. It's kind of, you know what, Aron, it's kind of like what you guys do when you're developing a character or you're developing your promos to connect. The idea of the promo is to connect. The idea of your character is to connect, because you don't have a job if you don't. It's the same thing with us. You know, our job is to connect with people on some level.
For me, on a smaller note, I was, not putting myself in the same league as either one of you, but it was the camaraderie. I like the camaraderie aspect of it, I more than the creation aspect always. I don't know. So, you're always working with Rachel.
Yes.
I don't know. I shouldn't say that. I don't know if that's true, but
no, it is. I mean, that's
okay.
I've written my best stuff that I've ever written, even though I've written with other people. Anything, the best parts, the best songs I've ever written have been with him. I mean, there's just a symbiotic nature that we have with one another that, as I said earlier, we figured it out early on without even having to figure it out. It just happened. And those are the best.
It's the same thing as like having a shot at the bar with a buddy. I know you don't drink anymore, TJ, but it's the thought of it. You don't have to be drinking. It's the thought of like, dude, we're fucking, you and me, buddy. We're good. Our moms would be proud, bro. The whole idea
world is a better place that TJ doesn't drink. Trust me on that one.
Oh yeah, he's got hundreds of hours of footage of it though in his. There is some great footage in that doc, man.
Just the worst strip club in New Brunswick. That's where I'd meet him.
Yeah. Well, thank God that I didn't have the video camera on in our tour, Snake.
It's the truth, man. It was so, gosh. That was the tour. The Kiss tour was the tour where I graduated from drinking the 750 milliliter bottle of vodka to the one with the handle on it. That was my graduation. I used to get up in the morning / afternoon and go into catering, and my cup of coffee, I'd be like this, and it'd be shooting everywhere. I mean,
no, they're holding the pencil, and you can't hold the fucking pencil.
Oh, it's the worst. It's like someone says sign an autograph, and it looks like an old piece of spaghetti.
Sorry, I tried. You have no idea the night I just had.
God bless you, Joel.
Hey guys, we're going to start rehearsing soon. I got to jump off, but thanks for having me, and I'll talk to you guys soon.
Hey, great to meet you, man. Thank you. Actually, I have to get ready to do my podcast here in a couple minutes, so I'm going to have to dip out too.
Awesome.
Well, you know what? Joel, if you could get Aron my info, I'd really appreciate it, and we can hopefully keep in touch and just if you give him my email and whatever other info you have, phone numbers, whatever. TJ, if you can forget all of my info, I would be
trying. Never.
Awesome.
But Damien, or Aron, excuse me, if you get a chance to see TJ's movie, it's very good. I watched it today and it's really good.
I'll definitely
really
check that out. Yeah,
Thanks,
definitely. And TJ, great to be able to meet you, man, and talk to you.
Excellent. Thank you very much.
Thanks, man. Good luck.
And
with the
Aaron,
movie. Let's check it out.
Aaron, thanks for making me even more of a mark than I already am.
Oh my God. Same here. This was awesome. Like trust me, this made my day. So
thanks, bud. Have a good podcast, and I hope to speak with you soon.
Right on. You too. Thanks, guys.
DJ, anything you need for the movie, I'm in. Joel, thank you for having me. Great to see you again.
Snake, I'll never forget when were first learning computers in 2000. We had a laptop, but it was like 65 pounds. And I was learning the internet and trying to navigate different things. And you had loaded all gay porn on my homepage, not just one. There was like 50 of them. So I would click and it would just keep reloading to the next one.
Yep. That was your screensaver.
Oh my God, over and over. And I'm in production and I'm trying to do business as a professional guy. And that's what was on my thing. So thanks for that, Snake.
You know, my new bit is on airplanes, being that we all have masks on now, is pulling up porn on my iPad. And just holding my iPad here. I just put it there so everybody can see it.
That's great.
Thanks for watching. Don't forget to like and subscribe by clicking the round button on the bottom right. To learn more about me or the guests on the show, go to joelrody.com. You can follow us on Twitter, Instagram, or TikTok. The handle's Joel Rody. And don't forget, when you party like a rock star, don't be a dick.